Welcome to episode 27.
Welcome.
Welcome to the couches that are episode 27. Welcome.
Yeah, we I don't even did we post the last one that we recorded?
No,
Yeah.
I'll post it today. I've been slacking. So what I'll do is I'll
Yeah.
post it today. We've been busy with different things, but
Yeah.
actually with similar things. But yeah, things are moving and shaking. Episode
Yeah.
27 is here.
How
Episode
much now
25.
that we relax in chairs.
That's right. Yeah. That we need the relaxation. We need
Yeah.
it. I'm just joking. Um, all right, cool. So this week we wanted to go through. There were a lot of things that actually happened last week. Everybody was making product announcements, which is really exciting. The most
Yeah.
exciting to me, I think, was a huge break, or not breakthrough, but breakthrough personally in the way that I interact with ChatGPT, which is Whisper, and or which is like voice activated through the app. Let's restart that. There's this new function on the ChatGPT mobile app for iPhones. I'm sure it's on Android too. I don't really know, but for iPhone, you're able to now go in and speak just in natural language uh, out loud with the app, and it's incredibly powerful. And it's been the way that I've sort of been using it exclusively the last week or so, maybe 10 days, which is kind of crazy. So
Yeah.
fun. It's much easier for me to get a lot of really in-depth conversations going, which is fun.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
How do you like tell people who haven't seen it how you use the voice feature? Like what is it? Like what's the breakthrough on how you use it, and then like what makes that better than just typing in?
for me, the breakthrough is it's really easy to use. There are these binoculars that are in the top right-hand corner of the app itself. The app is great. I like haptic feedback, which is kind of a weird
Yeah,
thing
the
to like.
little like tippy
Yeah,
tappy.
I really
Yeah.
like that feeling in my hand. Um, and that's been a feature for very long, or that's been innate in it for since the start of me using it, which is kind of fun. So I've liked using the app for a while. It's fun to use. It's very clean. People are usually impressed who don't use ChatGPT when I'll show them that like, they'll say that they never use it, and then I'll say, "Oh, have you? You could. It's really fun. Especially since Bing was reintroduced last week, or I think it was last week that they reintroduced Bing, and it's also on the mobile app. So you're able to say who's in the MLB playoffs or something simple like that.
Yeah.
But when it comes to more complicated things, is how I've been using it personally. So with the whisper feature, I was going in and I was eating dinner and I was typing in some really specific questions around calculating projections, like revenue projections month over month for like a 12-month runway, or trying to understand how things will grow and how fees will grow with that revenue growth. Our Stripe fees will grow with that. So that's a complicated thing. I had a hard time just explaining it right now, and I've already gone through this exercise and built up the models. And for me to type that out was just a difficult exercise. And what I realized is that instead I could just literally say what I just said, or say stream of consciousness chuck silliness to the app. The only issue that I've found with it is that if I take a long gap, or a few, like a 2-second gap in between the sentences that I'm saying or the thoughts that I'm having, it thinks that I'm done with a thought. And
Yeah.
oftentimes I'm clearly not. And it'll just say, "Oh, it doesn't sound like you're done with your thought yet." It's like, yeah, I know. I wish that there was a button I could push that indicates that I'm done, but there
Yeah.
isn't that just yet. So just me speaking stream of consciousness allows for it to get a lot of context. And as we said countless times, the more context, the better outputs you get. More
Yeah.
context on the input, the better the output it is. And so what I've been able to do is I found that just sort of stream of consciousness, explaining as much as I can, explaining as much context for what it is I'm trying to solve for as I can, um, elicits really solid responses. And it's a little weird that it is speaking out loud back to me. My initial thought was odd. And I
Yeah.
really think that my theoretical impression of it is more odd than the actual practical impression of it, which is it doesn't seem odd at all. This is actually super useful. It's like having a conversation.
Yeah.
Um, it does help that the app, it's sort of like this blob that moves around on the screen, which I really like. There's something about it that's very aesthetically pleasing. They've done a good job with it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's not as weird as I thought it was going to be. I assumed to be very weird. I'm surprised by how unweird it is. And it's really helpful. And then I actually have a tab up on my computer oftentimes. I'm using the mobile app, Then I went and got my computer because I was like, it's probably, all my histories. I go through I don't really have time to go through them, but at some point I imagine they might be useful. Um, and I went and got my computer so that I could maybe follow along if the history was being recorded, and it was. And you're able to, refresh the conversation on the browser and your computer while the mobile app is speaking to you. And if you give it enough time, the browser on your computer will actually provide you with all of the text that the mobile app is reading to you. And so for me, it's very helpful as an idiot. I'm able to read it as I'm listening to it. Like, wow, like I can digest it more thoroughly in
Yeah.
real time. It's really fun, especially when it comes to math. Like when it's doing math, when it's showing me math, listening to math equations is impossible. Reading them is also possible for me, but it's more helpful to see them than it is to hear them. So it was
Yeah.
really, really cool. That to me was like I've been using it a lot, and it's really cool.
Yeah. It's a wild, the difference in typing and talking is so different. I think when you think about it as like a normal or day-to-day person, like it's much easier to get through things on a phone call than it is by texting or emailing each other.
It's a
Just
good point.
because, yeah, you just make decisions so much faster when you're talking and you really get out what you're thinking. So it's a really awesome update on their end,
Yeah,
and makes it easy to just spit whatever you want at it and have it answered, which I think is
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. It's cool. Like I find myself when I look at the blurbs that because it also takes it obviously it maybe not obviously, but when you open the browser in your computer and you look at the inputs you're giving, it records every word and it has it very accurately. I'm impressed by the way that it records your voice and it understands the words you're saying. I'm a little bit of a mumbler, like I've got my own accent or whatever it might be. And so it does a really good job and I'm impressed by that. But you'll know I do notice that the blurbs that it has when I'm doing the discussions through the mobile app vocally, my context is much larger. My inputs are much longer than I usually write out. When I
Yeah,
use prompt perfect, those are usually a lot longer as well when I'm using that plugin and I'm using and I get because it's providing more context and it's getting me better outputs. And so it's
yeah,
interesting because I'm finding myself like I would not type that much context just because I don't know for whatever reason it doesn't feel right. Um, Maybe it
yeah,
would feel rambly, and I'm constantly when I'm writing things just like striking sentences, like trying to be more succinct, I guess, and constantly editing. So, um,
yeah,
I think you're definitely right, but I think that the LLMs want that context. That allows for them to provide better outputs.
yeah. I mean, for using it, the more you give it, the more you get back. So I think it's a huge update for them. Also, the fact that they re-release browsing, which means that you can have context to up-to-date information as long as you ask it to reference anything from the internet, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's
At the same
amazing.
time that they have voice coming out, and they had two other big announcements. OpenAI did, where DALL-E 3 is a new image generation model that they're releasing to ChatGPT Plus users over this week and next week. And you're going to be able to upload images and have ChatGPT reference them, which is wild. So
Oh,
it's like
interesting.
GPT-4V, which means like the example that they put in their blog post was taking a picture of a bike and being like, how do I put the seat down on this? And they were like, well, if it has these, and then they like took a closer in photo and circled the part of the seat post, and they were like, this is the type of seat post. How do I put it down? And then it gave like directions, but it can recognize those things in an image and then give you context. So like if there's something broken in your house, you can take a photo and be like, how do I fix this in my house? Or, if you have a report that you want to take a screenshot of and post it, you can ask for feedback on the report or a breakdown of what they would analyze on it, which is crazy. And I have not gotten access to either of those yet, DALL-E or GPT-4V, but I'm ready for it. It should be
Oh,
exciting.
so those images. So on my app, it's not there yet. That's not a feature I can just use.
I don't think so, unless you've seen it.
Let's look at my new features. Browse with Bing and voice conversations are the only two in here. I just assumed that I'd be able to. Yeah, I don't have the ability to add images here. So,
Yeah. And you should get access to DALL-E and a new image model. I don't know exactly how it's going to work yet because I haven't gotten access to it. but I've been checking.
That'll be cool. That'll be really cool. The
Yeah.
ability to take a photo of something and get the that is unbelievable. That is truly amazing. I think that little things like I had to replace that. I had to figure out why the my motorcycle wouldn't start a couple of weeks ago, and I it did it, but it took like an hour and a half. It would have
Yeah.
been really helpful to just be like, take a photo, be like, I don't understand what the issue is here. This is the battery of this model motorcycle. And it would
Yeah.
probably say, troubleshoot these things. It would have just probably been a fraction of the time. It could have been 20 minutes.
Yeah. Which is wild.
It
And
would be amazing.
yeah, I'm excited for that. Mainly
Yeah.
because yeah, seeing things gives you so much context. Like we were talking about, like, and they say a picture's worth 1,000 words, but like
Yeah.
if it seems like the examples I've seen, it's really good at knowing what's in the image. So all of that context is going to be you're going to be able to answer questions based off of it, which is
It's
wild.
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah, I asked it. There were some mushrooms growing in one of my plants, and I had asked it if that was a really bad sign. It said it's not necessarily a bad, like those. That's fine. The mushrooms won't kill it, but it does. It is a sign that the soil is likely too wet, and that it just means that you probably should stop. And I wasn't watering it. The plant is outside. It's been very, very rainy and humid. But that was really interesting. It's just like immediately knew. Whereas it's not
yeah,
that easy to find information that you can trust online that isn't just trying to sell you something or trying to sell you or like just trying to get you to like look at the ads on their site.
yeah,
So I think that that's
exactly.
like, yeah, it's amazing with the bit with the. Why did they get rid of browse with Bing? Do you have any idea? Did you have any?
They said I what I heard was that people were able to print out entire web pages from it, and it was being, and then they also said it was being used in ways that it wasn't intended to be used. So
Hmm.
some people were figuring out ways to like manipulate the way that it browses to get information that they shouldn't have been getting into ChatGPT, I think.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I'm really glad they brought it back. It's cool. I just love the up
Yeah.
to date information thing.
And they also worked with a bunch of companies or other sites and apps to make sure that everybody was on the same page and that you can exclude their feature. So like the way the browse with Bing works is it will go search other websites, click into them, go through the information there. But there's something called a robots.txt, which like allows certain things like that into your app or your website. And so they worked with companies that didn't want their data accessed so that they wouldn't have to, which was nice.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, Bing has been yeah, like it's a natural partnership to have a search engine that's a part of these so that it can
Yeah.
automatically search the web. And like I was doing some tax research and just being really specific about sort of yeah, I mean, so interesting. It's just amazing the ability for it to query up-to-date information, whether it's baseball teams
Yeah.
or tax information. It's like so useful. I've been using it just so much. It's so fun. I looked, for example, this morning over breakfast. I was reading about how I could recycle a lot of the old electronics that I have. I have a box, like a 2x2 box, that
Yeah.
has 10 years of wires and old shitty things that are broken, and none of them are like nice old computers. Like I have all my old computers and all my old
Yeah.
iPods and all my old phones in one place. That's not what I mean. It's similar objects that are just much less valuable and don't really have the same maybe staying power. I think maybe one day I'll refurbish those computers. It'll be fun. But the a lot of those old things I don't know what to do, and I'm pretty sure I shouldn't throw them out. So I was querying ChatGPT this morning and asking it, and then it was providing me really stock answers like, "Oh, yes, you shouldn't be throwing those out. You can bring them to a recycling center." And I was saying, "This is my zip code. I actually want to know where I can bring
Yeah.
them." And then it provided me with a ton of data on like where it is that I can actually bring them locally, which is really, really helpful. And it
That's
provided
super
also
helpful.
telephone numbers I can call to check if they still are. They're like, "This is potentially out of date, but you can call
Yeah.
this number and hopefully they'll be able to tell you if it's accurate." It's like, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. It's
Um,
super awesome.
Super fun. Also, I was looking into a pretty complicated topic a couple of days ago about I was listening actually, this is funny. I was listening to a Mitch Hedberg skit about, he has a skit. You're listening to Mitch Hedberg? I'm sure you have.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has a skit. He says he's talking about getting a receipt for a donut, and he's like, we can leave ink and paper out of this because
Mhm.
I don't need to prove that I bought a donut.
Yeah.
And so, but that was at the turn of the century. And so that was like, it was just pointing out the absurdity of needing to take record of the fact that somebody bought like a donut they're going to eat in the next 30 seconds, which I
Yeah.
think was that, like, I paused it and was like, wow, it's so interesting. I wonder how much literature or academic research was done on the transition from mostly cash to then like debit card or credit cards, and like the advent of then having records for even menial things or cents. Because a donut is like 50 cents, or at that time probably it was less. And so just doing research on that, and then it was pretty complicated, and it like didn't touch on cryptocurrency at all, although there is a lot of overlap with that. But it was very interesting. And so, but what it had done is it had cited a lot of things, and I went through the citations, and the citations were academic papers and a lot of different things that were available, that were really, I haven't read through them in their entirety yet, but I have a few of them bookmarked in Reader, which is like my reading app. And so I'm going to be reading through this. Really, really interesting how people have written about that. But this is, all this is to say, a Mitch Hedberg joke made me think a little bit like more analytically about the transition into
Yeah.
digital, the advent of like digital cash. And then I was, you want, so you have an interest in something that it's hard to query the internet for that sort of information.
Yeah.
There's so much clickbait, there's so much pay to play, and it's
Yeah.
really hard to get to actually where you want to be, which is like the academic research, the like the crux and foundation of the information. It's hard to find that stuff,
Yeah.
despite the fact that we really are good at querying this like infinite pool of information. It's still very difficult.
Yeah.
And ChatGPT surfaced them. It summarized things and then provided citations in real time. And then I was able to go into those citations and see those. And that's really where I'll get the information from. So you don't have to necessarily take it at face value. But when I
Yeah.
had taken it at face value, it was a little hard to read. So I said, hey, can you just summarize this in the same way that Carl Sagan might, or in Carl Sagan's voice? And then it provided like this really fantastical, beautiful, very prose, like poetry version of the same information, in Carl Sagan's voice, so to speak. It was
Nice. Good.
so fun. Like, all those, that sort of thing took me 30 minutes, less than 30 minutes. And none of that was possible, you know, a
A
year
year
ago,
ago. Yeah.
yeah.
That's crazy.
And which is a great, yeah, because as a kid, this is like, I spent so many, like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours looking for information. Um, just because it's hard to find, like whether it's really obscure random music or information on academic papers on like how money changed, and
Yeah.
I don't remember it because I was 9 or 10.
Yeah. It's wild, man.
So cool. Yeah. Sorry, I feel like I'm talking
That's
so much.
No, it's okay. I was gonna say there's been a shit ton of releases. Open or Spotify, speaking of finding music, they released a beta version of a few podcasts where you can choose live dubbing and the language. So like Lex Friedman's podcast, there's like 4 different languages, and I think you can watch it with video and then change the language, and it will change live, and it will sound in his accent, so it sounds like Lex speaking in Spanish, and it
Wow.
happens like automatically, which is really wild.
Whoa.
Uh, yeah, and I think that's going to be the norm for at least like audio stuff. You'll be able to like listen to any podcast in any language, which for us most things are in English, but there could be a time where it'd be awesome to like listen to things that are from different countries, and you could automatically change them to English, which is going to be bonkers. Yeah,
That's so cool. That's like, dissemination of information, like the access to information being larger. It's so cool. That's awesome.
I know it's crazy. And also with music, I think Spotify's pretty clearly wants AI to be a huge part of what they're doing going forward. So it'd be fun to see what type of music it suggests a year from now compared to now, Like they've done a lot of cool stuff with their Discover Weekly, and now they have like an AI DJ a little bit, but I think that's only going to get better where like finding new music will be super personalized and awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that feature. It's fun. The Discovery Weekly is back when I first started using Spotify. I remember it was a big deal. I switched over in 2017 from Apple Music. Um, and it's just gotten better and better. It's great. I still add to our playlist, by the way. I'm not sure if you ever listen to
You
that.
do? No, I haven't
I
seen
do,
that in
yeah.
ages.
Yeah, I still do. You should pop it up and then put stuff in there. I add stuff to it all the
Oh, yeah,
time.
it's fun. We can make a blend too, which is a feature that
Yes,
they have where two
I did
people
this
create.
recently. Yeah,
Yeah, that would be
it's
fun.
cool. Yeah, that's really cool. That's a great. That's a. I think that's a better use of. Actually, that is AI, right? Some
Yeah,
in
in a
some
way,
capacity.
yeah. It like
Yeah.
takes songs that you're listening to and ads, and it takes songs that I'm listening to and ads, and it takes songs that we both listen to and add,
Hmm.
and it just create and it updates too. So it's like a rolling thing. It's not a one-time thing, which is
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. I did that with Willie. We have one
Nice.
where yeah, it's really fun because
I
there's
gotta
a lot of
figure out
like,
how.
yeah, it's easy.
That's not an easy thing to set up. Like they don't have a blend button as far as I know, or maybe they do, and I just don't look for it.
The funny part is I tried to create this sort of playlist that you and I have, which is like a shared playlist where we both can add to it. And I ended up making this blend and I sent him the link and I was like, oh, this isn't what I meant to do. But it is even cooler than what I meant to do because we don't have to
Yeah,
add anything. And it's music that he listens to because I listen to his playlists. I have access to his stuff and he listens to mine. He has access to my stuff. And so, but it's nice to be able to have both because he listens to like a lot of like brass New Orleans, like fun, like party. I don't know, like parades, not parade side, but like a lot of brass.
uh, yeah,
And that's not really like in my heavy rotation. So it's fun to like listen to that a little bit. And then he has, we have a lot of shared interest or a lot of shared music, but
yeah.
yeah, it's cool. Really, really cool.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
that is cool about Spotify. I don't really think about them as being an AI company, but
Yeah, there's a
they
lot of
definitely are.
companies that yeah we have a little bit of time. Canva is like known as a graphic design company. It's very easy to like do graphic design almost for anybody. I use it a good bit, and they've been slowly launching AI features for this year. Like they added uh, a feature like magic background thing where it makes like taking the background out of photos better, or magic eraser where you can erase things out of the photo that use AI. And then they created like a text to like graphic where you can almost like where ChatGPT, you could be like, write graphic copy for a sale or a sale of whatever, and then it'll write the copy and put it on a graphic for you. And then they announced they're working with Runway AI, which is like a video AI thing, and you're going to be able to do text prompt to video directly in their platform, which is wild. Yeah.
Crazy.
And it looks, I haven't fully gotten to play around with it yet. It's called Magic Studio. But they're really just taking what is already a multi-billion dollar like SaaS platform and putting AI into all parts of it to make it easier to use, which is crazy.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're going to see, I think, a lot of companies doing that. And these early adopters like them, Spotify, WOOP, which is like the fitness tracker we use now, you can actually ask it data or ask it about your data, almost like ChatGPT. It's almost the same sort of
It's
little
amazing.
widget. You could just be like, "How is my recovery this week?" And it'll answer in a very like broken down way, like a chatbot, but reference all of the data on your health and recovery, which is cool.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because I had like a decent night of sleep, but it didn't feel great. But it said my recovery was really, really bad. And so that was interesting. Is like, I then asked the thing, it's like, why? Like, I'm not sure that I understand. I just don't understand why this would be.
yeah,
And it was able to provide me with a pretty thorough answer. It's pretty cool.
yeah,
That's a really cool feature. When you had told me that, I was like, I am into
mm,
that.
yeah.
Sounds like it's up my alley.
Yeah,
So
it's so
I was
good for that. I mean, it's already
yeah,
affected me where it said my recovery or the worst part of my data was my heart rate variability, and then I started asking it, and like it goes up and down if you don't drink, or if you do drink alcohol and you're dehydrated and you're not exercising much, it'll sink down for me to like 32, like on a Saturday. But then I can watch as I'm like not drinking, exercising, staying hydrated, getting good sleep. It like bump up to like 58, 60, which is wild.
crazy.
And
That's really
I
interesting.
wouldn't really be tracking that if I wasn't able to ask it those questions. And
Yeah,
like
I wouldn't
within,
even know that's a thing.
I know, and like
Heart rate
within 48
variability? What?
hours, I can already start doing shit to make myself feel better, which is very cool.
Yeah, it's really radical. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
amazing. Any other companies that have had big releases? I know that Bard came out with like their third version of their LLMs. That's exciting, and I know that
Yeah, Bard, Google released a feature with Bard where you can connect it to all of your Google apps, like Docs, Sheets, Gmail. So like if you're doing things in Bard, you could be like, add this to my schedule. It'll automatically put it in your calendar, which is
that's
very
cool.
cool. I haven't played with that yet, mostly because my experiences with Bard have been like less than great. But there could be a time where it would make sense to start using that. I mean, right now I'm pretty much chat GPT all day, every day.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you own a business that's built on top of ChatGPT. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's true.
I
I need
do
to know it.
wonder if there's a world in which there will be plugins for Google. I just don't know if they're. Yeah, I don't think of them as like, I don't know. I know that Android's Google, but I don't know
Yeah.
there's an app store. That's good. I guess where I was going with that, but
Yeah, I feel like they probably will. Um, Unless they have some sort of learning from their Chrome store or their or the Google App Store that it's not good for business. But I think it only brings more people to using it more often as long as you
hmm
have like good apps in there.
hmm
Yeah. The only
What
other
else?
big thing was Amazon invested like a few or a shit ton of money in Anthropic, which is an OpenAI competitor.
Oh,
They
I didn't know that.
created, yeah, so they invested a lot. So it's like now we have Google, Amazon, OpenAI, and Microsoft all like kind of making plays for the chatbot area. Also, Facebook has like done a lot of work on it as well. Um, it feels
Facebook
like
keeps people
everybody's,
open sourcing,
yeah,
which is really cool. Um, I think that's kind of like the I don't know because this sort of yeah, I don't know. LLMs are interesting, and like the people who control the data control potentially could control the outcomes of that data. And the
yeah,
fact that there's open sourcing happening is really cool. I
yeah. As long as people use it for good.
think. I don't know. Somebody
Yeah,
scammed my grandmother recently. They like called her and told her that I was. They told her that one of her grandchildren was. I don't know, some like very extravagant story, which
yeah,
seems very silly to me. Um, but she was caught. She just like believed it and went through a whole rigmarole. Like for several days, was really upset. And I just like, Gigi, like you got to take it easy. This is a fable. This is a lie. There's nothing true
yeah.
about this. Everything is fine. I was working all day that day. I was inside of a house. Um, and yeah, so people will always be bad. That's like my point. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that open source is good, just in general.
yeah,
There
that's
must be
true.
bad
It'll
actors.
be the interesting thing will be when, well, they've already seen some of this where people clone your voice and then call somebody in your family with a model that's trained on your voice. So instead of that, it would be like your grandmother hearing what she thinks is you, and you're like, I'm in trouble. I need money right now. Um, Send
Jeez.
me 35 Google Play gift cards right now to this
Yeah,
address,
exactly.
this email.
Yeah, exactly.
It's always like an Apple gift card or Google Store gift card.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, I like taught her how to go into her phone and block unknown callers. She's like, "How do you do this? Because don't you have calls from people who you work with that you don't have their number?" I was like, "Yeah, all the time. But if they need to get a hold of me, they leave me a voicemail or like shoot me
Yeah.
an email. Like I don't answer. I don't give my time away to people I don't know. That's not a way. It's not a good use of my time."
Yeah. Also,
Um,
so few people actually call anymore. The assumption is most of it is spam calls anyway.
Most of it is spam, but I definitely in the food industry, there's a lot of calling. To be honest,
Yeah.
there's a lot of calling. Um, but they leave me voicemails, which is what
There
matters.
you go. Yeah.
Um, yeah, Anthropic's an interesting one. I should try that out at some point. I tried it months ago and sort of just like left it after the one day, but I
Yeah.
don't know
I
much
mean, it's
about it.
good to, there's so many different chatbots now. It's like I kind of just focus on what I know and what I can use really well.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
yeah.
I pay for
I don't,
ChatGPT Plus, so that alone is a reason to just continue using that personally.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Nice, dude. I don't have
yeah,
any hot takes. I don't know if I have anything for that.
cool.
Do you have any hot takes?
Um, no, not really. I feel like I'm always forcing it. My hot take is that my hot take is that like 2 days ago I was like, man, I'm disappointed. I haven't felt the drive to record a podcast with Eric. But my hot take is that even if you don't feel comfortable, Eric was like, we should do it today, earlier this morning. Let's go.
Yeah.
I'm nervous. I'm nervous, man.
Dude, like
My
the
hot
first
take.
2 minutes of this, I was like, I don't remember how to record a podcast because we've done like two in the last 2 months.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
So I think
we're
it'd be
still on it
helpful.
though.
Yeah,
We've committed to a year. We have till
we have.
yeah, and
Yeah,
we're trying out new formats now. Look at that. Look at us.
yeah,
Look
yeah,
at us.
exactly. I recently went back and like was going through like making sure because I had to like clean iCloud or something because I had to pay for more data and I had to move some files and some of the files were the recordings and I watched some of them just out of curiosity, like some snippets of them. And one
Yeah.
of them we did like an intro where it was like I did a sentence or like a clause of a sentence, and then you did a clause of a sentence, and then I did the
Yeah.
second, like third clause, and then back and forth. There's like, is AI gonna take our jobs? And it's like so funny, dude. It's like, oh my god, I'm so glad we're not doing that anymore.
Yeah. That's way more of like an official show intro.
Yeah, exactly. It's like if we, yeah,
Is
like if we had like a YC behind us, and it was like a huge thing that people listen to. It's much more fun to just like
yeah.
chat the way we chat all day.
Yeah, it's much more our style to not do that. That was a
Yeah,
swing and a
definitely.
miss.
I think it was funny. It was funny for me to watch. I was like, I can't believe I let him do this to me. Look at me.
I know, it's my idea too. You know, I
That's
like to
funny.
take shots on goal, and I'm gonna miss a bunch.
Oh, but I love it. We had you. There was an episode we had watched of that those two guys from YC, and they do that sometimes, and
Yeah,
so they do it great. It sounds fun, and it's like works. But they're also
yeah,
really nerdy and like much older than us, and just
exactly.
yeah. So it's kind of
And their
funny.
shit's supposed to be way more official. Although I think sometimes they get comfortable enough when they're talking where it's fun.
I know. I
But
love when they curse. It's like, oh.
yeah, those two.
Awesome, man.
Nice,
Well,
dude.
shout out to Josiah Soren. Thanks again. Got a slightly new intro with the removal of the episode numbers. So it's easier for Charlie to edit them on a week over week basis because he's so lazy. So, but shout out to Josiah Soren. And yeah, we'll see you here next week.
All right, see you then.
All right, cool. Nice, man. Well done.